episode 428 of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. I will be talking all about tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite, the go-home show before this Sunday's huge Forbidden Door pay-per-view event. Right here, right now, 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Hey Wrestling Fanatics, it's Wednesday night, and you know what that means. Time to talk about an episode of AEW Dynamite on this Wednesday night, June 21st, 2023. Without any further ado, let's get into AEW Dynamite tonight, the go-home episode of Dynamite before this Sunday's Forbidden Door pay-per-view. And tonight, Dynamite was live from Chicago, Illinois, at the Wynn Trust Arena. And our commentators for tonight, Tony Schiavone, Excalibur, and Taz. Tonight's Dynamite starts off with tag team action. The Guns and the Hardys, which not a bad match at all. I didn't think to kick off the show tonight. And this one we end up having interference from Bullet Club Gold. The Guns hit 310 to Yuma to defeat the legendary Hardys. And then after the match, there is a 4-on-2 attack. And then Absolute Ricky Starks makes his way out to make the save. And then it is the AEW World Tag Team Champions. But even at this time, the Guns and Bullet Club Gold, Juice Robinson and Jay White still have the numbers advantage. And then finally, after the crowd starts the CM Punk chants, CM Punk makes his way to the ring, makes the save, and then the baby faces take control. The Hardys are outside of the ring at this time, and then Punk, FTR, and Ricky Starks are left in the ring standing tall. And then Punk gets on the mic and they challenge FTR and the Guns to an 8-man tag team match this Saturday night on AEW Saturday Collision. And that is made official during Excalibur's preview, which is, like I said, made official later on tonight. And next up on Dynamite is the concession stand brawl, which I talked about it a little bit on GMWF this morning. A very famous match. The Tupelo concession stand brawl, the original. And last week, I want to say that was the maybe 44th anniversary of it. And I definitely remember hearing about that as a famous moment in wrestling history. And this one, they started out in the back. They had a concession stand set up with hot dogs, ketchup and mustard, and some ladies, like I guess were supposed to be the concession stand workers. And they brawl, and at one point, Mark Briscoe covers Jeff Jarrett with the ketchup and mustard, and then he puts Jarrett on a table and goes on top of a ladder to dive off. But then one of the ladies that was working the concession stand, who has a mask on, and gets up and knocks Mark Briscoe off the ladder, and it is revealed to be, no surprise here, Karen Jarrett. And I was going to say, there was another lady that was one of the concession stand workers there that I didn't recognize, and she started pouring water on Mark Briscoe, and then they explained that it was to get the mustard and stuff out of his face. And then they brawl all over in the back still. And then there's another one who gets involved, and that is Sanjay Dutt, which actually I made a mistake here. Karen attacked Mark Briscoe, but it was Sanjay Dutt who is the one that actually knocked him off the ladder through the table. I have a bad memory, and that's why I always say I need to start taking better notes. And I don't know how John Pollock from Post Wrestling does it. He's probably one of the best note takers in the podcast business. And they continue to brawl all over the place. And Jay Lethal gets involved. They end up going out to the arena. And at the timekeeper's table, Jay Lethal, there's this guy sitting there. Turns out that it is Papa Briscoe. He choke slams Jay Lethal through the timekeeper's table, gets in the ring, but then Karen Jarrett hits him with a low blow. And Karen gets involved again, and Mark Briscoe defeats Jeff Jarrett in this concession stand brawl. So I'm guessing that this is the end of the feud between Mark Briscoe and Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, unless maybe that they have a singles match between Mark Briscoe and Jay Lethal. They do have a long history together. And next up, our trios match. Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara teaming with Minoru Suzuki to take on the team of Action Andretti, Darius Martin, and AR Fox, who have been teaming together for a little bit now on Ring of Honor, on Honor Club, who actually are a pretty impressive trio team, but it is the JAS and Minoru Suzuki getting the win. And Jericho puts out a challenge at Forbidden Door. Them versus Sting and Darby Allin and a partner of their choice. And then we see Sting, and he says they will find out who their partner will be this Saturday night at Collision. Definitely interesting to see who they will pick as their partner. I have a feeling it's going to be somebody from New Japan. Not sure who. But I think whoever it is will be not from AEW, but one of the New Japan superstars. And Jericho talks about the confrontation last week. And I think this will end up leading to a match between Jericho and Sting one-on-one. I don't know if they'll have it on a pay-per-view either. Well, I don't know if it's actually going to be a pay-per-view, but after Forbidden Door, the next one will be All In, or some kind of special anyway, that still hasn't been announced how that will actually be airing here in North America or anywhere really. But after All In, that regular actual pay-per-view is All Out, so probably on an episode of Dynamite or maybe even Collision, we could see that one-on-one match take place for the first time. Chris Jericho and Sting. And next up, Adam Cole makes his way to the ring to call out the AEW World Champion MJF. He talks about the match last week, and he says he did not lose, and he says he did not win, but MJF did not win either. And there's actually something I forgot to mention earlier in the night about the blind eliminator tournament, where this will be a tag team tournament and the winners get a shot at the AEW World Tag Team Championships. We saw Tony Schiavone and RJ City in the back draw names of superstars that will be partners in the tournament. And during this segment between Adam Cole and MJF, we see Tony Schiavone at the broadcast booth get up and say that the two names that they drew earlier, the first one was Adam Cole, and the second one was MJF. So they will be teaming together in this blinded eliminator tournament. And of course, Adam Cole is not happy about having the team with MJF. And MJF is more so upset about having to wrestle just about every week on Dynamite. And Adam Cole gets him upset and stuff, and MJF finally agrees that he will wrestle Hiroshi Tanahashi this Sunday night at Forbidden Door. And then at this time we see on the screen Tanahashi cut a quick promo on MJF So that match is still on for this Sunday night at the pay-per-view. I think that will be a very good match, to be honest. Definitely a big fan of Tanahashi. I don't know how you can't be. And the tag team action up next. AEW International Champion Orange Cassidy teaming with the Ring of Honor Pure Wrestling Champion Tatsutori Shibata to take on the team of Daniel Garcia and the NJPW World Television Champion Zack Sabre Jr. Garcia and Sabre Jr. get the win here, defeating Orange Cassidy and Shibata. And these four will compete in a four-way match for the AEW International Championship this Sunday at Forbidden Door. Next up on this week's Dynamite, the AEW TBS Championship is on the line. Chris Statlander taking on Taya Valkyrie. Again, this one was a very good match. Chris Statlander, so far since she returned at Double or Nothing and winning that TBS Championship, has been very impressive, defending the title. And Taya Valkyrie also very good in this match, but it is Chris Statlander retaining, and I hope that they let Statlander have a good long title reign with the TBS Championship. Big fan of Chris Statlander. I've noticed though, since she has been back, she hasn't been seen with Best Friends and Orange Cassidy any. Unless they're just gonna kind of separate her from them a little bit. And again, really good match here. And now for our final segment of this week's Dynamite, we hear from Eddie Kingston, who returned last week, and he says the Elite left because Eddie said he doesn't respect them. And Eddie addresses the fact that him and Jon Moxley have an issue. Eddie is teaming with the Bucks and the Hangman, and Mox comes out, and then eventually Eddie Kingston announces that the fifth man will be Tomohiro Ishii, and he gets involved. The BCC beats down Eddie Kingston and Ishii, and then we hear the coins drop, and Kazuchika Okada makes his way to the ring. He has a stare down with the Forbidden Door, or his opponent at Forbidden Door, Bryan Danielson, and then Wheeler Yuta blindsides him, attacking him from behind, and Danielson goes for the Bull Psycho knee, and he hits Yuta by mistake. And Bryan just avoids the Rainmaker, and that match will take place this Sunday night at Forbidden Door. Bryan Danielson and Kazuchika Okada that is definitely a match I am looking forward to see. One of the dream matches on Forbidden Door, and that was tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite. And now, a little bit of news before I wrap up this episode of the podcast. I saw earlier today that there was a report that Tony Khan and his father, Shah Khan, have interest in buying Bellator. Now, I don't know if this is actually true or not, but to be honest, I hope not. I've talked about this on the podcast many times before, that I'm not an MMA fan and just really could never get into it. So hopefully they'll just stick with pro wrestling, AEW, and Ring of Honor. Even though Ring of Honor, like they've talked about, is more of a Tony Khan purchase. And that is about all the news I have right now for this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. And still got quite a busy week ahead of us. We got the regular shows tomorrow night and Friday. Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor on Honor Club. Then Friday, it's SmackDown and AEW Rampage. And then Saturday night, the second episode of AEW Saturday Collision. And then Sunday, AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door. I do plan on having a live episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic right after Forbidden Door Sunday night. So stay tuned for that. But first, I will be back tomorrow for the Thursday episode of Good Morning Wrestling Fans. Remember, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, you can leave your thoughts on tonight's Dynamite and predictions for this Sunday's Forbidden Door in the comment section on Spreaker or whichever website or podcast app or you listen to on. You can leave them in the comment section if they have a comment section. And that's all for tonight. Once again, I'll talk to everybody tomorrow morning for GMWF. But until then, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.